Hello kids, welcome back. Are you ready to learn about rescue dogs? Take a look at this picture. What do you see? First, we see a dog here. He looks very excited. What did he find? You see his red tongue here. Very nice, cute dog. And here's a woman. She looks like she's dressed for cold weather. She could be a skier, but she's holding the dog, right? What are they doing? Well, where is this picture being taken? Where is the camera? The camera looks like it's under the snow. So imagine if somebody is trapped under the snow, then the dog finds them because the dog can smell you. And so the dog comes and rescues the person under the snow. That's what we're going to learn about. These types of dogs that help rescue people or have other jobs as well. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at the table of contents. Here we have working dogs. So when we think about dogs, usually we think they're pets. We keep them in the house. They're funny. They're entertaining. We care for them. They care for us, don't they? They love us too. And so that's what we usually think about with dogs. But dogs also have jobs to do. Some dogs work and they help their owners. Here we can see dogs to the rescue. Dogs to the rescue. In other words, dogs help rescue people. We see here the right puppy. Not all dogs can work. Not all dogs can rescue people. You have to know which is the right puppy, which is the right baby dog. Train and test. So dogs need to be trained. They need to be tested. And here we see rescue dogs in action. So we can see the types of things that rescue dogs do. That'll be interesting. That's at the end of the book. And then also at the very end, we have our glossary, our list of important words that we studied in this book. Okay, let's begin with the story talking about working dogs. Now we can see here, what place is this, right? Where is this happening? What is this here? This looks like an airplane, right? Part of an airplane. Here's the big engine, right? This is an airplane. And this is many suitcases. Many suitcases, it's baggage. Now here's a man. He looks like a policeman or some kind of guard. And here's a dog, his dog. What's his dog doing? His dog is smelling these suitcases. The dog is smelling for dangerous things, right? That people should not have in their baggage. And that's what the dog is smelling for. So this dog works at an airport. So this is a type of working dog. Here's another type of working dogs over here. Here we have a dog here. He kind of looks kind of funny, right? His head is low to the ground. But this is a sheepdog, right? And we've took a look at these types of dogs before. A sheepdog helps move the sheep to where they're supposed to go. The sheepdog helps the farmer move the sheep. Here we have a special situation. This woman is wearing sunglasses. Why is she wearing sunglasses? One of the reasons is because she's blind. She can't see. So you think about this is very terrible. Some people can't see, some people can't hear. But if you can't see, how could you live your life? How would you get around? It would be very dangerous. If you cross the street, you can't see the cars. You could hear them, but you're still not sure where they are. And you're not sure where things are in the street. You might walk into them. So this is very terrible. This is a very bad situation for people who cannot see. So what do? They have a dog that helps them. And we call these dogs a guide dog because the dog guides them, right? They hold on to the leash here. They hold on to the collar or the harness, and the dog will stop. The dog is very smart. The dog knows when to cross the street. The dog knows, hey, there's a bump in the road, so move the person so that they don't step in the hole in the road, or they can step over the curb, right? So the dog is very smart, and the dog knows about all these things. In many restaurants and many buildings, they say no dogs allowed. But of course, if a blind person has a guide dog, then that's a special case. Of course, they can go into those buildings with their dog because the dog is helping the person who is blind. So these are different examples of dogs that help people, and these are working dogs. Let's read. Dogs are good workers. They can run fast. They can smell well. They can learn to obey. So they can run fast. They can do this. They can run very fast, okay? They can smell very well. So that's important if they're trying to smell for dangerous things. They can smell well. They can run fast. They can run after sheep, right? They can learn to obey. Obey, what does obey mean? Obey means to follow commands. If somebody tells you to do something, your mother, your father, your teacher, they tell you to do something, you should do it. You should obey your mother. You should obey your father. You should obey your teacher. Be quiet in the class. Don't fight with other students. You should obey these things, these rules or these commands. Dogs can also learn rules or commands. We can tell them sit, right? We can tell them roll over, right? Those are things for playing. But we can also teach them important things like go smell the suitcase, like go get it, and then the dog will smell. We can say, give different commands for the dog to turn the sheep to the right or the left. We can give the dog different commands so the dog learns how to guide a blind person through a city. So dogs can learn to obey. Dogs like to work with people, right? Dogs are very friendly. Dogs like people, right? Don't be afraid of dogs. Only very few dogs are dangerous. Most dogs, almost all dogs, are very happy to see you, and their tail wags and you know that they're happy to see you. So don't be afraid of a dog in that case, right? They like to work with people. They like to be around people. Some dogs have important jobs to do, and we saw the different jobs that these dogs have. This dog helps the policeman. This dog helps the farmer. This dog helps the blind person. So these dogs have important jobs to do. Dogs to the rescue. This is a very important job. This is one type of job that dogs have, right? Some dogs, not all dogs, but some dogs become rescue dogs. This is a very important job for the dogs. They help find lost people. They help find people after disasters. So what do they help do? They help find lost people. If there is a person in the forest who's lost, they don't know how to get home. Sometimes this happens. Sometimes children get lost when their family goes camping in the mountains or in the forest. The dogs can help the adults or the people to find that person so that person can get food and water and shelter, right? Sometimes there's a disaster. What is a disaster? A disaster is a terrible event like a fire or think about in the wintertime, there's a lot of snow in the mountains. That snow sometimes falls and it comes down the mountain. And it's a lot of snow. Right? If you're caught in it, you can get buried with snow, right? That is a disaster. The dog can help find you after the disaster, or after a fire, or after a tsunami is another type of disaster. Maybe you heard about the tsunami in Asia many years ago, right? So after these types of disasters, people get lost or people get hurt and they can't move. Dogs can help find those people. They, who's they? Dogs, rescue dogs. They have a good sense of smell. A sense of smell means, if you have a good sense of smell, it means you can smell things from far away. Usually if your mother cooks a delicious meal, you can smell it, right? If you have a good sense of smell, you can smell it from outside or before you come near your house. I think mom's cooking something. Run home, right? You have a good sense of smell. I have a bad sense of smell. I can't smell it until I come in the home, right? Okay. A dog can follow a scent for miles. Here we have this word scent. A scent is another word for smell, right? Many things have scents. Scent, a scent. For example, people have scent. Do you know you have your own special scent? That's right. If you smell, whoo, I have a very strong scent. Okay, hopefully not. But if you smell yourself, you smell differently than your friends or the other people in your family. Maybe you don't know that. You don't pay attention to that. But if you have a dog in your house, your dog can know who is there just by smelling you, because the dog has a very good sense of smell. The dog can smell your scent and know it's you. Your dog can smell your sister's scent and know it's her. Your dog can smell your father's scent and know, it's Papa. Without seeing, without hearing, the dog can know just from the scent. The scent is a smell. It can search during the day or at night. Dogs, of course, they don't need to see. They can search at night because they're following their nose. They can smell very well. They have a good sense of smell. Okay, so this is one type of dog, and we can see some other examples of a rescue dog. This dog is going to a damaged building. So maybe this building has been damaged, probably by a fire, right? And this dog is going into the damaged building. It will look for people. Wow, looks very professional, right? Looks like a professional dog. The dog is wearing a special harness. He's in a special piece of equipment and very calm, knows what to do. It's not excited. It's waiting till it gets to the building, and then it will look for people to rescue. Here, there are rescue dogs in adventure stories and films. So this is a drawing, but it's from a book, right? Many adventure stories and even movies, there are dogs who rescue people because this is what happens in real life. So we also read about them in adventure books. We see them in movies. We see dogs rescuing people. When I was a boy, there was a famous dog on American TV. The dog's name was Lassie. 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 And Lassie was a very smart dog, and she would help rescue people or tell her owners. She would bark and say, "There's somebody in trouble," and then she would run. The owners would go after her, and then she would lead them to the person who was in trouble. It's a very smart dog. This type of dog is a special dog that helps rescue people in the snow and also from drowning. You see this thing around its neck here? That is actually got some alcohol, sul, like whiskey inside of it. Why? Because when people are cold or they drop into cold water, they need something strong to drink to make them warm. Okay? So that's very funny. This is a very famous type of dog that has that drink around its neck so that it helps people who are very cold and are in the snow or need some warmth. Okay, well, this is one type of dog that helps. This is one type of job that dogs have. Let's take a break here. In the next part of the lesson, we'll take a look at some other things that dogs do. See you then. Okay, welcome back. We're continuing the story about dogs that have special jobs. And we just talked about dogs that are rescue dogs, right? Rescue dogs. And we'll talk a little bit later about other things that other dogs do. But for right now, let's look at what types of dogs are good for these types of jobs. You know, not all dogs can be a rescue dog. Not all dogs can help people. You have to have the right dog, and that starts when they're born, when they're babies. So you need the right puppy. You need to find the right puppy. These are all puppies here. Do you think they can become special dogs? Do you think they can help people? Well, let's see what they have to go through. Let's read here. Not all dogs can be rescue dogs. A rescue dog is chosen when it is a puppy. Chosen. You choose which dog. You say this dog, or this dog. Which dog will be a good rescue dog? Well, you look at the dogs. You look at how big they are. You look at how active they are. You look at how smart they seem to be when they're playing with their brothers and sisters. And you say, wow, this dog is very smart, or this dog has a lot of energy, or this dog looks big and strong. So let's train it to be a rescue dog. Handlers. Choose the puppy carefully. Handlers are people. They're like trainers. You could say that they're like teachers, but really, teachers teach you information. They teach you knowledge. A trainer is someone who teaches you a skill. So a handler is like a trainer because they're going to teach these dogs skills. And we use the word handler to talk about people who train animals, not just dogs, but any kind of animal. There are horse handlers, right? There are elephant handlers. There are dog handlers. So handlers are people who know about the animal and know how to choose the right animal, choose the right puppy, and also how to train that puppy. Then the puppy begins training, and that's what we're talking about here. Training. Training, remember I said teachers teach you knowledge that you put in your head. Trainers teach you a skill, something you can do, right? So a teacher teaches you, a handler or a trainer trains you. So training is learning how to do a skill, okay? Training is not going to school and studying a book. Training is going outside or going into a shop or a factory and learning how to do some type of skill. That's training. Okay. So that's what they're doing here. The puppy begins training. First, we have to choose the right puppy. Then we should train that puppy. Okay? Let's take a look at some ways that the handler trains the puppy. Here we have a handler. This man is a handler. He knows how to train the dog. And this dog is just a young dog. It's not a baby dog, but it's not an adult dog. It's a young dog. And this man is getting to know the dog, and the dog is getting to know him. They're becoming friends. The puppy learns to work with its handler. So the puppy learns to work with its handler. The puppy has to know how to work. Here we see a policeman, and here is a dog, a big dog, and this dog is very, very good because it only has a very narrow area it can walk, right? And this dog is walking on these narrow areas. As it grows, the dog learns new skills. So as the dog, of course, it's not the same dog, but as the dog grows up, it learns newer and newer skills. It keeps learning, and it learns new skills. This is one skill, how to walk in a very small area. Maybe that dog has to get into a building or into a car, and there's only a small way that it can get in there. So the dog learns the new skills. Okay. Train and test. The young dog learns to search in difficult places, right? We saw that dog walking on the very narrow place. That's a difficult place. It learns to search to get into those difficult places. After 1 year, only 1 year, right? Dogs grow up fast. The young dog takes a test. So tests are not just for you, right? Tests are for everybody, even animals, right? So the next time you take a test, remember, it's not just you who has to take a test. Everybody has to take a test. And even dogs have to take tests. If it passes the test, then it becomes a rescue dog. Only after 1 year. Wow, that's very young, right? The dog works on a rescue team. It helps save lives. So this is a very important job. Rescue dogs work as a team. Remember, dogs don't work by themselves. Dogs are friendly. They like to work together, and they like to work with people. Rescue dogs can't do the job alone. They need a person or sometimes other dogs to help them do their job. So they work on a team. They work together. And the dog helps to save lives. Look at this picture. This is an interesting picture. Look at this dog. It's a big dog, but he's going through a very narrow area. What does this look like? Well, here's a handle, right? It looks like part of a car. This is a car door. So this police dog we can see this is a policeman here. This police dog can jump through car windows. So the dog can jump through a car window, which might be important if there's an accident and the dog needs to get inside the car. This dog here, right, is learning to cross obstacles. So some of these places where you have to rescue people, it might not be flat. It's not a nice area. It's not a clean area. It's not an easy area to get into. There may be many obstacles. An obstacle is something that is difficult to get over, right? It's hard to get over this concrete pipe here. And here's a concrete block. You can't just easily go over it, right? You have to climb over it. That's an obstacle. An obstacle is anything physical, a physical object that's in your way. You have to get over it or around it or sometimes under it, right? It's blocking your way. So that is an obstacle. Dogs have to learn how to cross obstacles, to get around obstacles. Now here, this dog is going for a boat ride, right? Because this dog is trained to search at sea, right? That's interesting. The dog can search at sea on the ocean. And of course, this person looks like she's working in a rescue, for a rescue organization. And her dog will help her to find and rescue people at sea. Probably the dog will swim out, right? It has something floating on the back and it will grab somebody and help bring them to shore because sometimes people they can't swim and they don't want to drown. So the dog will help save those people in the water. Okay, well, let's take a break here. In the next part of the lesson, we'll take a look more at dogs and what they do. Hello, welcome back. Well, we've talked about rescue dogs. We've talked about how they become trained to be rescue dogs. Now let's look at what these dogs do, these rescue dogs do in action, right? What are some of the things they do? So rescue dogs in action, what are the things that they do? Rescue dogs help save lives all over the world, right? So that's interesting because dogs, everybody in every country knows the value of dogs. It means that dogs are valuable. They are important everywhere. Everybody knows that dogs can help people. So they save lives all over the world. They help after earthquakes and fires. Before I taught you the word disaster, different types of disasters, I said maybe there's a fire. A tsunami is a disaster. When a lot of snow comes down, right? That's a disaster. This is a type of disaster. There's another one here. We'll get to that. An earthquake is a type of disaster when the earth moves suddenly. Sounds strange, right? You might be walking along, all of a sudden the earth is moving. Japan, unfortunately, has earthquakes. If you live in Japan, you've probably felt an earthquake. Thankfully, in Korea, you don't have I've never experienced an earthquake in Korea. Korea doesn't really have earthquakes. Whew, could. But, it just depends on where you live. It's just when the earth moves suddenly, and of course, buildings can fall down, right? The ground can open up. There can be holes in the ground. So this is a very dangerous situation. Dogs can help after earthquakes and fires. They help after avalanches too. Avalanche. This is a word. Remember when I gave you the example? Imagine in the wintertime, there's a lot of snow in the mountains. Sometimes that snow comes falling down the mountain, a lot of snow. And if you're caught, you might be buried in the snow. That is an avalanche, okay? But avalanches aren't just snow. Sometimes, especially in mountains that are very tall and very steep, sometimes if it rains, a lot of mud will come down, or dirt or rocks will come down. That's also an avalanche. So avalanche can be snow, it can be mud, it can be rocks or earth, right? So if this happens, you might get buried. People might get buried in their cars. They might get buried in buildings. Or in the snow, if you're skiing, you just might get buried by yourself. So dogs can help find you. Dogs are part of mountain rescue teams. Of course, in the mountains, if you go in the mountains are very difficult country, right? You can get lost in the mountains. Avalanches happen in the mountains. People get lost in the mountains. So dogs are part of mountain rescue teams. They are part of many teams, not just mountain teams, but many teams. We saw before there's a dog learning to rescue people at sea. So that's another type of team. Rescue dogs do a good job. They do a good job because they want to do a good job. They want to work with people. They want to find people. They do a good job, and they have a very good sense of smell. So here we see a picture of a firefighter. This is a firefighter, and he's going into a dangerous place, a difficult place. He's using a rope, and he's got his dog with him because his dog will help find or rescue some people. So that's an important job. It does a good job. Here's another example. Remember I said an earthquake, sometimes buildings will fall down. So this building was destroyed by an earthquake. It fell down. There might be people inside here. So this is an earthquake rescue team. Here we see the woman here. She's trained. She knows how to help people, but she has to find that person. She can't find that person because she can't smell them very well. She can't see them. She can't hear them very well. But the dog can smell them very well. Remember, dogs have a very good sense of smell. So the dog will find the people and she will rescue that person. Here, this is the military. This man is a soldier. He's a soldier in an army. Right? And here's a dog here that helps him out. This is an army rescue team. Of course, soldiers have a very dangerous job. They're in very dangerous places. Sometimes if they get hurt, they cannot call for help. So a military or army rescue team will find that person and save them, rescue them. Okay? Or they'll save other people too. They can also save civilians after some terrible accident or something that happened. Okay, so these are rescue dogs in action. We see many different examples of rescue dogs in action. Okay, here we have our glossary again. These are the important words that we learned. These are good words to remember, and these are the words that we learned in this story. Let's go over them. First, we have avalanche. Do you remember this word? Avalanche. Avalanche. An avalanche, of course, is a large snowslide in the mountains. It says snowslide here, but remember, it's not just snow. It can be mud, it can be rocks, it can be dirt. But usually when people talk about avalanche, they're talking about the winter and the snow. Especially for skiers, it can be dangerous. Okay? Disaster. We talked about disaster, and we saw different types of disasters, right? A disaster is an accident that causes damage and can harm people. So it's a terrible event that may cause damage. It can cause a building to fall down. It can cause something to burn, right? It can cause an area to be covered in water. These are disasters, and they can harm people. An earthquake is a type of disaster. It is a type of disaster. In an earthquake, a sudden shaking of the ground, which often causes damage, especially in towns and cities where there are tall buildings or there are bridges, right? This can cause damage. It's a sudden shaking of the ground. At the beginning of our book, we talked about a handler. Remember, a handler is like a trainer, somebody who trains somebody to do something. A person who trains and works with a rescue dog. In this case, that's the handler, right? But there are other kinds of handlers. Dog handlers, elephant handlers, horse handlers, and these people train the animals to do something. Obey. We talked about that word, obey. Remember, it's important for us to obey other people, right? It's important for us to obey our teachers, our parents, but it's also important for animals to obey us. Even if it's just a pet, even if it's not a working dog, the dog should obey us. It should sit, it should stay, it should not bark, right? So we have to train the dogs. We have to train the dog to obey us. An obstacle. We talked about obstacle. An obstacle is something that's in your way. You have to get over it or around it or under it. An object that is in the way. It's in the way. I want to go here, but there's something in my way. That's an obstacle. Finally, we had this word here, training. Training is learning something new. To learn something new. It's usually a skill. It's how to do something, right? Remember, you go to school, you're not really in training. You're learning knowledge. You're learning about books. You're learning how to, well, you're learning how to read. You're training to read. That's one thing that you're learning. You're learning a skill. So you do get trained in school also. But you're also learning knowledge, which isn't really training. Training is more specifically to learn how to do something. So when you learn how to read, that's training, right? But if you learn about the capitals of the world, that's not training, that's just remembering information. So there's a little bit different between learning knowledge and learning a skill. Learning a skill has to do with training, learning something new, learning how to do something. Okay? So, we didn't really do any training in this. See, we're not training here. We're just learning. We are learning something new, though. We're learning about rescue dogs, and we're learning about how dogs can help us, right? Dogs are great animals. They're a lot of fun. They're a lot of fun to have as a part of your family, right? You love them, they love you. Take good care of them. But remember, dogs are also special. They can do very important jobs to help people all over the world. So, interesting lesson. Hope you learned a lot. We'll see you next time. Take care.